giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Marsh
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre McGuire will be joining me in about 20 to 25 minutes. He has another radio obligation in Pittsburgh going forward now. Every Tuesday, he'll be joining me at 4:20. But before he does, we are going to talk some Tampa Bay Lightning and Lightning Panthers series that finally gets going in Tampa Bay tonight with Game 1. We'll welcome on our old friend Erik Erlendsson of the Lightning Insider, and I think we've got him right there. So let's get right into it. Erik, how you been, my man?
I'm good, Murph. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Favorite time of year, you can't complain. Can't complain.
This is when the fun starts.
Yes, it really is. And look, I know that maybe for people outside of Florida, they don't get how much this has become a rivalry, Erik. But just let them know right now how intense this matchup can be.
Well, first of all, I think these two teams are just sick of seeing each other. I mean, the number of times they play each other per year now, I mean, they usually face each other at least 3 times during the preseason, and then you get the full regular season matchups, and now this is the 4th time in 5 years. It'll be the playoffs, and I mean, it's great for hockey in Florida because with these two teams, because you look at the history, they were never really good at the same time. They were either both really bad, which a lot of those years they were. There were some years, obviously, when the Lightning won the Cup in 2004, the Panthers weren't very good. And the Panthers obviously made the Cup final in 96, and the Lightning, that was their first year in the playoffs. But it really wasn't until about 2015 they were both kind of, reaching their peak of their franchise, right? They both started to become good at the same time. And now that they are, I mean, this is one of these two teams has been in the Cup final each of the last 5 years. So the amount of attention it brings to the sport in the state of hockey is just tremendous. It's it's going to be a topic of conversation on every newscast, and whatever newspapers are left actually still printing a product down here, it'll be front page on the sports section. So and on the ice, there was a game down in Sunrise just before Christmas, and both teams felt they were the Grinch because that was the game where Nikita Kucherov was ejected for a knee penalty against Matthew Tkachuk. And, all of a sudden Matthew Tkachuk, who looked like he was dead in the water, was able to come back out for the start of the power play that started after that. And, there was some Florida tried to run them out of the building, so you could kind of see the emotions kind of bubbling up. Certainly, I don't think we'll get that sort of stuff tonight because it is the playoffs and nobody wants to hurt their team. But yeah, there's some bad blood between these two teams just based on the rivalry alone.
Well, on that note, ironically, there's a lot of different people on this team now since the trade deadline and since that game in December. Talk to us sort of about what has changed in your eyes about the Lightning. They still seem to have their same identity, but what have the new faces done? How have they altered things?
Well, really for both teams, you go back to, I went and looked it up, when Florida beat the Lightning in 5 games last year. Tampa Bay's got 7 different players. The Panthers have 7 different players. So this isn't really a rematch in a lot of ways. And if you go back to the summer, the acquisition of Ryan McDonagh has been huge for this team, especially you look at their 5-on-5 improvements they made on the ice and the leadership that they brought in. And let's face it, a lot of people thought that this was going to be the Lightning took a dip, right? Steven Stamkos isn't here anymore. Mikhail Sergachev was traded, a couple of really big, important, prominent players. But they brought in McDonagh. They brought in Jake Gensel. Some other new faces that are here as well. And then at the trade deadline, it was Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Unfortunately, Bjorkstrand's not available for this series. He got hurt towards the end of the regular season. But just having McDonagh back has just brought up. I mean, he's the one word I think everybody talks about with him is usually just professional. He's just a professional defenseman. I think the word that's kind of been tossed around with him the last week or so as he hit the 1,000-game mark is stabilizer. Yes. And that's really a good term for Ryan McDonagh because he's stabilized this team's defense. He's taken a lot of the minutes away from Victor Hedman that he had to take on last year, especially with Mikhail Sergachev injured for a good portion of last season. So it's freed up Victor Hedman to be more of who Victor Hedman is. So he's had by far. And, Jake Gensel set a career high with 41 goals this year, but it's been Ryan McDonagh that's had the biggest impact on this team this season. And you see it, and it reflects especially in their 5-on-5 play. They went from the 23rd or 24th defensive team last year to, I think, they're third by the end of the regular season this year. Andre Vasilevsky helps, there's no doubt, but Ryan McDonagh has been a big part of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. That's where I was going to go there. How much, too, does he help that coaching staff in terms of having that veteran conduit to the dressing room?
Big time, right? Like he came right in, and first day of training camp, they obviously announced Victor as the captain, but McDonagh had an A. I mean, that tells you, obviously, his tenure here before they knew exactly who he is and everything after a 2-year absence, but that tells you the leadership skills that he brings and, the mind that he has. Ryan McDonagh is a Hall of Fame player. I'm not so sure he's ever going to reach there because he just doesn't put up the numbers that we think about when talking about Hall of Fame players.
Right.
And, when they won the Cup in 2021, Ryan McDonagh was one of my 3 votes for the Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
Because you look at everything important that happened for the Lightning in that playoff series, Ryan McDonagh was right in the middle of.
Yeah.
Starting from game 1, he blocked a shot and sent Braden Point on a breakaway, ended up being the game-winning goal against Florida in game 1. Those are the kind of plays that, they might show up on a box score, but they're not going to stand out. And everything that he brings is exactly that. He's just a Hall of Fame presence. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Locker room, on the ice, on the bench, everything. He's made a huge difference in this locker room that was looking for some leadership to kind of step in, obviously, with the absence of Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, I mean, I think he defines playoff hockey. That's just the type of player he is. All right, looking right now at this lineup, first of all, any health updates for the Lightning that we should know heading into game 1?
Well, I mentioned Bjorkstrand. He's already been ruled out for the series. Injuries this time of year, we were lucky to get lower body on all our Bjorkstrand. We didn't see what happened to him.
Body soreness.
So we didn't see what happened to Oliver, but it did happen a week before the end of the regular season. But the fact that he's been ruled out tells you that it could be bone related or something like that. So he's out. Other than that, Luke Glendening injured his shoulder against the Maple Leafs. He's been practicing the last couple of days. It looks like he's ready to kind of go tonight. The only one we're not sure about is Mitchell Chaffee, but I don't know if he'd be in the lineup anyway.
Right.
They've been running 11-7 almost exclusively for the past 5+ weeks. So there's no reason to think they won't go that way tonight. So injuries look to be fine. Obviously, the big question mark in the series is Matthew Tkachuk, right? He's been out since the Four Nations. Has been skating with the team since they got back to practice. He took some regular line rushes this morning, but nobody's tipping their hat. Paul Maurice didn't tip his hat. Tkachuk didn't speak this morning.
Yep.
Everybody's belief, though, is that he will play tonight, but he hasn't played since February. So what can he do to stamp his name into this series will be a big question mark for Florida.
And anyone, he's human. He's going to have some rust. So it'd be interesting to see how quickly he can have an impact. I think just his presence gives their bench a boost, but at the same time, it's going to take him a little bit. On the Tampa side, though, in terms of aggravating players and players getting on your skin, you mentioned Yanni Gourde coming back there. How does he fit right back into that role for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, Yanni's not the same player he was when he was here and helped this team win a couple of cups. But he still has the same heart and hustle that he had, right? And maybe the speed is it's not quite as good. He's coming off injury too. He had the sports hernia surgery while he was still with Seattle and came back just before the trade deadline. But he is still an agitator. He will still walk his way into any scrum and come out with a smile on his face that just infuriates people. Right? It's just, you look at that and you go, what do you do? That's like a smug smile. And it definitely gets under a guy's skin. So that element of his game is still there. We've seen it. He's been he's probably going to play on a top line tonight with, Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. Jake Gensel will be on the second line. So that kind of tells you what the team has thought of him in his return, because he is a guy that can forecheck. He's not the biggest guy, obviously 5'8", 5'9", whatever they list him at these days, but he gets it on the forecheck and he wins pucks for being a smaller guy. And if you're with Point and Kucherov and you can win pucks, you're going to make a living.
Obviously, Brad Marchand's got some history with the Lightning in the playoffs, but that was when his time with the Bruins many moons ago. What has, since he came back, what role has he played when the Lightning and Panthers have met each other so far? Anything?
Well, it was just the one game last week.
That's what I thought. Yeah, you only one game, right?
Yeah, because he just came back. He'd only played, like 5 or 6 games with the Panthers. But I mean, Brad is Brad, right? He's still the rat. he's still going to be the other guy on the other side that's going to agitate and, get under guys' skin. I remember a great story about Brad after the Bruins won the Cup in 2011. Obviously, they beat the Lightning in the Eastern Conference Championship.
Yep.
And the first game that they met the next year, Marchand went right by the Lightning bench and was pointing at the ring as he went by. Right, so he still knows how to get under guys' skins. Yeah. So he's going to have that element to him. He's still a productive player, right? Like his production hasn't dropped off a ton. We'll see. I don't think because you haven't seen Florida's lineup fully healthy, right? Because Tkachuk has been out since February and everything else. So, but he'll be that guy, and he's still a presence. Fortunately for the Lightning, Ryan Callahan's in the booth nowadays and not down on the ice.
Looking at the Lightning blue line there, a guy I think that not a lot of people knew a lot about just because he was always out west, but he comes back. Pierre and I were big fans of Moser. And just how is he fit in on that blue line? I see he's paired right now with Hedman up on the first pairing there. Talk to us about his role.
He's been better than we knew, right? It's just you see these guys maybe once or twice a year, and
right,
maybe they have a good game, maybe they don't. But he's, once you start to see how they perform on a regular basis, when he first started the season, he was fantastic. He was very versatile. He's still versatile, but playing the right side with Victor, it's not easy playing with Victor Hedman. It's hard for guys to do. He's a different type of the way that he plays and the way that he roams, and you have to know how to read off of Victor in order to play with him, and he picked it up pretty good, even being on his offside. He suffered an injury in December that kept him out until after the Four Nations. He hasn't looked as effective since he's come back, but the way that the Lightning run their defensive core, McDonough and Chernak take the heavy minutes, and they're a pair that's consistent. They hardly ever break those two up. But you'll see Moser play right side with Hedman. You'll see him play left side with the Perbix or with the Darren Radish at times. So he's kind of mixing and matching throughout the games, and that's not easy to do in the middle. I mean, Rob Zettler taps him on the shoulder. He's got to know, am I going right side? Am I going left side?
Right.
But he's been you're never going to get big offensive numbers out of J.J. Moser, but he might be the guy 3 passes before that starts a breakout or starts a rush, right? Like he just kind of has that knack about him. Again, not the biggest guy, but he makes good puck decisions, and that's underrated. I don't think we talk about that with defensemen in today's game enough.
I hear you. We actually look like we have my co-host Pierre McGuire, so I'll let him join us as well, because I'm sure he'd love to ask you some questions as well, Eric.
Who's the new guy? Who's Eric? Who's the new
Pierre,
guy?
what's going on, buddy?
How you doing, Eric? Great to see you.
There he is.
Warmed up for a long playoff run. I think your team's going running for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's 90 degrees outside, so if that's any indication.
I heard you just talk about J.J. Moser, and Jimmy and I have talked about him a lot. I think he's one of the more underappreciated players in the league. Will Tampa, I know they like to do this, will Tampa go 11-7, Eric?
I think so. They've been almost exclusive 11-7 the past 5 or 6 weeks, and I don't see any reason with Bjorkstrand out and Geeky up here in his place. I expect them to go 11-7 for the foreseeable future.
Jimmy, and I think that makes a big difference, and it's a message to a lot of other teams in the league. 11-7 is not a foreign concept. John Cooper's been doing this for a long time, as Eric talked about.
Yep, for sure. Eric, go ahead.
I was going to say, Coop did that a lot in 15, right? When they made the Cup.
Yeah, that's right.
He did that a lot
when they played Chicago. I mean, I was there doing the games with Doc Emmerich and Eddie Olczyk, and you're absolutely right. They were doing 11-7 a lot.
Good transition there. I was going to ask you about Cooper. What was he like when he got back from that Four Nations? Because, we look around all of the league. Some teams really got ravaged by injuries. Others didn't. But I really enjoyed watching him coach there, and just the job he did specifically, the relationship he formed in a fast time with Jordan Binnington. What did you take from his experience there, and how's that translated back into the Lightning?
Well, when you get to work around the best players in the world, I mean, you mentioned Binnington there because, Binnington was catching a lot of heat, and, especially after the couple of goals he let in against the U.S. in the first meeting between the two teams. This is a great thing about what makes John Cooper a great coach. And he'll tell you, X's and O's are not his strength. It's never been his strength. He certainly knows them well enough.
Yep.
He relates to the players in
Yeah.
a way that I've never seen a
Like
coach.
you tell me, Pierre. Yep.
Yeah, he just has a way of making everything they do feel important. And if they make a mistake, like this is the epitome of a new school coach. He doesn't tear you down to build you up. He talks to you. He relates to you on a human level to just make sure that you don't get down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've used this example, I don't know how many times in talking about his approach to coaching. In the 2020 playoffs, Blake Coleman, who just came over and, they had the summer break and everything, but he had just come over. So he's really new to the team. He tries to blow the zone early against the Islanders in the conference final. And it's his mistake that ends up costing them. And the Islanders score the tying goal. So rather than you screwed up, I'm sitting you down. No. He sends those guys right back out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Blake Coleman do? 20 seconds later, he puts the Lightning back in front.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's those type of ways that he deals with the players. And, when he first came up at the end of the 13th season, you kind of try and get a feel for him and who he is. And, talking to a lot of the guys that played for him in Norfolk, having won that Calder championship with Norfolk, like they started using the term friend.
Mm-hmm.
When did you ever hear a player in any way talk about a coach as a friend? But that's who he is. Like you think about it. He stood for the wedding. I think Pat Maroon's wedding, I think he stood for. Eric Condra's wedding, John Cooper stood for. So he builds these relationships, and that is the greatest strength. So whether it's Mitchell Chafee or it's Sidney Crosby, he treats everybody the same, and he knows how to treat them, and he identifies roles for players no matter what it is, no matter what level he's been on. Mm-hmm. And he makes everybody feel like they're the most important player on the team. Yep. And in today's athletes, I think that's important.
He's an amazing manager of people. Eric couldn't be more appropriate about that. And he delegates the X's and O's fantastically well. And when I saw it a lot, and Eric was there, when they got beat by Columbus in the playoffs, Tortorella exposed maybe some of his inequity or inability, I should say, to be an X and O's guy. Tortorella exposed that, but he figured it out and went and got some real good people to work with him. Yeah. And Eric knows he's surrounded with a lot of hockey brain power down there. He really,
and it's been a big difference. And you're right, Pierre, that 2019 situation was rather humbling for the entire organization, right? But they didn't panic. Like the easy thing after that 19 season would have been, okay, we're cleaning house. It's not working. We got to move coach. We got to move players. It's not working. Instead, they took a step back away from the emotions, looked at things analytically, and here we are, 6 years later talking about a couple of cups and 3 Stanley Cup championship appearances.
I'm so glad that Eric brought that up that way, because this is where I wanted to go. I watched the 1,000 game ceremony for Ryan McDonough. Yes. And Eric, you're there all the time. You can tell everybody, because I'm partial to the guy. And he didn't give me a job, and I was a runner-up for the GM's job, and I love him. And I didn't get the job. Mr. Vinnick has to be considered one of the most important owners in the league, the way he handles everything down there. That 1,000 game ceremony, that was beautiful in Tampa. It was magnificent.
Yep. Yeah, they've done it with Stamkos. They've done it with Hedman, all these guys that have hit these milestones. Again, and Jeff is an interesting cat.
Oh, yeah, he is.
When he first bought the team, like nobody knew who he was. He was this partial owner of the Boston Red Sox and, a pretty philanthropical guy up in the Boston area. So he was kind of a somewhat known commodity. Right. But when he came here and he was not comfortable talking, especially to us in the media, but you saw the change in him. And I think that relayed itself in the way that he ran the organization, because you talk about the way John Cooper delegates and the way John Cooper makes people feel important. Jeff Vinnick's kind of the same way.
I agree.
Right? Like he hires people, puts them in their job, and leaves them alone. They got to answer to him for sure, but they go out and do their job without somebody kind of hanging over their shoulders saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? So it gives that value and that importance of the job that they do and the freedom to be able to do it. Now, it is going to be interesting to see with the ownership change here. Obviously, Jeff is staying on for a couple of years as basically the principal guy in charge of everything, as the rest of the owners are going to kind of stay in the background a little bit. But his willingness to turn this into a world-class organization and then to do it, and then to bring a couple of championships here, spend the cap in a market where, let's face it, it's not a big market. It doesn't generate a ton of revenue compared to other teams, but I mean, you're right, Pierre. He's been a big part of why this organization is almost a model franchise, if not
Jimmy,
the model franchise.
To build off one thing, and Eric knows, when I first started going to Tampa, I coached games in the old fairgrounds, okay? They built the rink downtown. And when they first built that rink downtown, and I'll defer to Eric on this, but I think he'll back me up, it was just a cement building. It was just a cement building. And then Mr. Vinnick came in. There was a priceless organ that he brought over from, I think, Austria or Germany, put that up top, rehabbed all the inner part of the buildings. It became fan-friendly. Yeah. But this is one that, and Eric would definitely know this, all those beautiful buildings that are around the rink, Jeffrey Vinnick built those.
Yeah.
Yep.
That whole downtown part of Tampa, when I first started going there, it wasn't exactly like it was person-friendly. And Eric knows, like, it wasn't that great.
It's a place to go to now.
It is.
There's
Not
a
just for the
Sparkman
games.
Wharf. Yeah, there's Sparkman Wharf. There's some restaurants that are down there now. There's a USF Medical School, University of South Florida Medical School that's around there. And look, when the Davidson Group had this, they had this vision for downtown too. Yeah. And Mr. Davidson's real estate guy passed away pretty early on to his ownership, and all that stuff got pushed to the side. So when Jeff Vinnick bought it, that was an attractive part of it as well beyond the team. And he's done a tremendous job of building up this area. I mean, I've been going to games there, covering games since 2000, 2001, and to see the transition to what things are now and to see how much this hockey market has grown, he is a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Finally, we'd be remiss if we don't mention Mr. Brisebois as well. He had that quote, I forget exactly word for word what it was around the deadline, talking about his methodology at the trade deadline, saying we're here to win and we'll deal with getting those prospects in another way. We'll figure it out. How much did the fan base love to hear that? Especially like, as you said, when I first brought you on today, Eric, you're talking about, people are kind of expecting a down year for Tampa, but not with him running the show, huh?
Yeah, and really, I mean, this whole year, I mean, you think about it. He knew with the Stamkos situation, the heat he was going to take. He knew the organizational decision because, yes, he's the decision maker, but these decisions aren't made in a vacuum.
No. Right?
So he knew he was going to be the bad guy in this and letting a franchise icon like Steven Stamkos walk away.
Yeah.
And could he have handled it better? Probably. But he knew at the end of the day what was going to happen. And then he trades Mikhail Sergachev, and everybody thinks, all right, here's the money for Stamkos. Nope. No, it doesn't change our view on that. He brings in Jake Gensel. Yeah. Right? And in the Sergachev trade, he brings in a J.J. Moser, but he also brings in Connor Geekie.
Yeah.
They haven't had a prospect like Connor Geekie in a while, right? And he started the year with them, went to Syracuse, came back. He's been really good since he's come back up. So he took a team that everybody thought was going to be downtrodden and literally retooled on the fly. Yeah. Traded Tanner Jeannot, which is one of the few, if you want to call it a mistake, it's one of the few mistakes he's made as a general manager was all the assets he gave up for Tanner Jeannot. But he moved on from that, admitted the mistake, and moved on from it. And yet, here we are, a week to go in the regular season. They were right there with Toronto. And if they'd have beaten Toronto in regulation, we'd be talking about them as a potential division champions and them playing Ottawa. But for a team that a lot of people thought, well, maybe they can fight for a wild card this year. And now it's incredible to see how many, those of us in the media are now looking at this Lightning team saying, man, they might be the favorites. They might be the favorites to win it again. Yeah. I mean, it really is a tremendous job by Julien and the entire front office staff. And again, you go back to that 2019. That was Julien's first year as GM. Steve Yzerman had stepped down. He was an advisor at that point. Julien was the one. He's very analytical. He takes emotion out of it. And he was kind of the driving force in making sure that, okay, what can we do to be 10% better to get us over this hump?
Yeah.
And he didn't let the emotions of an embarrassing loss overtake the organization. He took a step back and allowed everybody to take a step back, catch a breath. What can we do to be better? And then when it came to the trade deadline in 2020, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow, a couple of first-round draft picks were traded for those guys. Nolan Foote, who was their first-round draft pick the previous year, was traded for those guys. Everybody thought, what are you doing? You're overpaying. I think it worked out all right.
You know what they did do, though? They didn't overrate their prospects.
Yep.
They were smart. They were really smart about it, which a lot of teams do. They're like, we can't trade that guy. He's too good. Well, no, you can trade that guy because the guys we're bringing in are better.
Yep.
Eric, before you go, I don't want to put you on the spot, so I'm going to ask you in advance. Do you have a vote for the awards, for the major awards?
I didn't have a vote this year, no.
Okay, no. Okay, I don't have a vote either. I had one for many, many years. I would just ask you this. Now that I know you don't have a vote, and neither do I would vote for Kucherov for MVP. Would you?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he was robbed last year, to be honest, guys. I know a lot of people think it was McKinnon's year, and yes, I'm close to the situation. I get it. But when you look at the importance of what Kucherov did last year, he was in on 50% of the goals for one of the top 5 scoring teams in the league.
Yeah.
You know, he did something that no player as a winger had ever done in the league, and that's recorded 100 assists in a season. No winger had ever done that. And then you look at him this year. He hasn't jumped out off the page as much this year as he has last year, but with the power play revamped, he still led the league in power play points. He didn't have that weapon over on the left circle firing off one-timers and Steven Stamkos.
Yeah.
Right? They had to find different ways, and everything goes through Kuch on the power play. But they had to find different ways to be able to make the power play effective. And that means Nikita Kucherov had to adapt. Yeah. Lo and behold, I think he led the league in power play points again. He certainly led the league in power play assists. Yeah. Jay Gensel led the league in power play goals. I mean, Jay Gensel's not a huge power play producer, but, you know, he led the league in goals because, you know, he understood how to play with Kucherov, but Kucherov had to find out how to play with him as well. So, yeah, you look at the impact that Nikita Kucherov had on this team this year. Yeah, and I know Connor Hellebuyck is a popular pick this year as well. He had a good year, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have a Carey Price year.
No.
Right? He didn't have a Jose Theodore year. Those are the last 2 guys to win the MVP as goaltenders.
No. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I think, look, I was a McKinnon guy for most of this year, but then I saw down the stretch and I was like, this Kucherov's at another level compared. Like, and I watch all their games, Tampa's games, and I'm like, this guy's at a whole other level. He really is, Eric. I'm so glad to hear you say that. Yeah.
Like he's a guy, and I'll use this example too. McKinnon, McDavid, they jump out at you with how the pace of the game that they play at, the speed, and what they can do at the speed and execute at that speed. You got to go back and watch Nikita Kucherov and say, did he really do that?
Yeah.
Like, that's how good he is. He's so subtle in his brilliance and what he can do. You have to go back and look at it like 2 or 3 times and go, did I really see that? If you remember, and Pierre, you were covering it, that 2020 series, I think it was I forget who it was against, but the pass he made at a high rate of speed, he just slowly turns the blade of a stick over.
Is that the one in the neutral zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Like it ramps up perfectly right to where Braden Point is going.
No, Jimmy, I was like maybe 15 to 20 feet from that. I'm like, he didn't just do that, did he?
Like,
you're seeing it, in real speed.
Who thinks to do that?
Yeah, no.
And who in the world can execute it? Right?
Yeah.
Like the way he thinks the game is just on another planet compared to everybody else.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I just want to say this about Jake Gensel because I'm buddies with his dad. His dad was a longtime college coach and a pro scout, and Mike's his father's name. And how about Jake? Jake played with Sidney Crosby. Jake played with Sebastian Aho. And Jake gets to play in the power play with Nikita Kucherov. He's pretty good. Go hang out with Jake when you go to the casino because it might work out for you. It might work out for you.
Yep, that's good stuff.
Yep, there we go. Good stuff. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it.
So nice to see you.
Hey,
really good
my
to
pleasure.
see you.
Good to see you guys. Hey,
enjoy the games, all right? Okay.
I will, thanks.
All right, there he is, Erik Erlendsson joining us here. You can find him at Lightning Insider on Twitter. He is a longtime Lightning reporter, one of the best out there.
He's good.
He knows the team inside out and is very connected. So I highly suggest following him for your Lightning news. And you're right, Pierre. You know, look, I don't have a Hart Trophy winner. That's how conflicted I am because I think the choices are so good right now. but I agree with everything you and Erik just said about Kucherov. And I do not think, I don't know whether it's because he's Russian. I don't know whether it's because he's in Tampa. I have no idea, but I do not think he gets the love league-wide that he deserves as a superstar in this league.
I agree. So we're on the same page. Look, I'm being totally transparent. I was a McKinnon guy. I was taking Nathan McKinnon. I'm telling you.
Yep.
And then since the whole, probably after the Four Nations, I'm watching this Kucherov and I'm going, wait a second, time out. He has separated himself, I think, from everybody else.
Well, you too, and I think the thing that you or Erik just said, the changes he's had to adapt to so much in the last few years, whether it's obviously the biggest one is not having Stamkos, but just other lineup changes. Right before you came on, Pierre, Erik and I were just talking about how this is a lot on both sides of this series. The rosters are different. I mean, there's 7 new players on each side of the series here. So for him to adapt like that and still maintain, if not exceed the level he was at last year, is pretty amazing. The only slight reason I wouldn't go with him and I'd go with Draisaitl is because what he had to do when McDavid was out for so long. And I don't know where the Edmonton Oilers are without him. I really don't.
That's fair. That's a good point. It's fair. But I don't know where Tampa would be without Kucherov.
Same thing. Hey, it's great that we have these choices. And the other thing too, I wanted to ask you this too, Pierre. If we were to have, because obviously you're never really going to see a player on a team that didn't make the playoffs, even though it is based on the regular season, but let's be real. It's hardly ever do we see a guy on a team that didn't make the playoffs get the MVP. But if one was to even be considered a finalist, who would be that guy for you out of these two? Zach Werenski or David Pastrnak?
Oh, that's an easy question. What are you trying to do to me?
I was having this convo with a buddy of mine the other day, and I was like, well, there's a lot of good points for both sides there.
I'm going to say Werenski only because they came right down to the wire.
Me too.
And if they don't, and I can say this, if Columbus doesn't have Zach Werenski, they're where Boston is. They're where Boston is. They're that far back. So that's the only reason why. But, David Pastrnak had an amazing.
He did, but essentially,
he had an amazing year.
Lineup.
It's a great question, Jimmy. It's a fair question too, but usually I can answer right away.
Yeah.
This one I had to think about, what's the differentiation point? And proximity to the playoffs for Columbus is what kind of swings it for me.
I'd agree with you on that. All right, Pierre, let's before we move on to tonight, let's look back at last night quickly. We'll start with the game a lot of our viewers were watching, obviously, and that's game 1 of the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. Unfortunately, unlike the regular season where you can get points for coming back late and forcing an overtime, that does not happen in the playoffs. And the Canadiens learned that lesson last night. I think we can both agree the start was a major thing for the Canadiens. But other than that, what else do you need to see from them? What are some little intricacies of their game that need to improve?
Play like they did the last 22 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the last few minutes of the second period and the entire third period, they were really good. I thought they were on their heels a little bit in overtime.
Yep.
Part of that, I think, was a long change. The period of the long change. I think they got worn out in the first period physically. I mean, that was about as full frontal an assault as you're going to see in hockey. I mean, it was equal opportunity. Caden Gooley was getting it. Lane Hudson was getting it. Nick Suzuki was getting it. Cole Caulfield got hit by Ovechkin in the second period. He must have been launched 12 feet in the air.
They had to go get him in the stands.
It was like a good thing there was a board system there. He might have gone into someone's lap.
Yeah.
So that was ferocious. It was to be expected. You and I talked about it. I talked about it with our good friend Mitchell Melnick. I said, look, it's going to sound harsh, draconian, and mean, but they're going to go right after Lane Hudson. And, I'm a little surprised, Jimmy. I'm going to say this. Andrew Mangiapane's a good player. He is. And for him, in Calgary, he was a first or second line player. Here in Washington, he's a third line player. I'm just telling you, he sucker punched Lane Hudson. And I was shocked. I was shocked there was not more brought up about that.
Yeah. There were a few things that
he hit him with a right hand, and I know he had a glove on. But I was surprised there wasn't more made out of that.
Yeah.
I really was, because Lane, I think you would agree, Lane wasn't Lane last night.
No.
But again, first ever playoff game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought all those kids got better. You look at the Canadiens roster, all the guys that had never played playoff games, I thought they all got better as the game went on.
I thought so too.
I did. I thought, but this is all part of them growing up as an organization. I'm not going to be negative about them because I was really happy for the fact they came back. But
And on that note, Pierre, when we talked earlier today, I was asking you what you thought of Marty St. Louis in the post game. Was he?
Yeah.
And I asked you, was he too nice? Does he need to be? And I just want you to explain to our listeners what you said and why.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it for me.
No, I'll let you. It's your words, my friend.
No, because I thought you were going to say, well, this is what Pierre actually told me today. And I said, no, Jimmy, it's fine. I'd rather him be more positive than negative.
Mm-hmm.
If he's negative, guys are going to go in with a seed of doubt going into game 2. Now they're going to say, you know what, my coach talked about me in a pretty positive way. We're not out of this thing. We can still make this happen. It's not all like negative and doom and gloom. I thought Marty handled it really well. The one thing is, sometimes you're not happy with the referees, or sometimes you're not happy with your goalie, or sometimes you're not happy with your power play or your penalty killer. There are all these different permutations that kick in with playoff hockey. Sometimes it's just better to say, you know what, I really like the effort of our team. I believe in what we're doing. Our guys are getting better. It's a good strategy. Not always, but with this team, it's a really good strategy.
When we were just talking to Eric there and he was talking about Cooper, I was thinking right to the question this morning about MSL. So yeah. I agree with you there. Pierre, looking around at the other games, some really good ones. Another game went to overtime there, of course, was the Avalanche and Stars. Kudos to the Stars for coming back into that game, forcing overtime and getting the win and tying the series. Look, like I told you on the phone, this series is far from over, but if the Stars do go on to win it, I'll gladly eat my crow and admit I was wrong. They showed a lot of guts, Pierre, I thought, in that game.
Oh, boy, did they ever. Jake Ottinger was key at a lot of different times in that game. It looks like they're two teams playing at different levels. Dallas's level's right here. Colorado's is right there.
Right.
Just because of the tempo that they play with. And a lot of it's what we've been talking about ever since the trade deadline when they made all those trades to bring in Brock Nelson, to bring in Charlie Coyle. Before that, they brought in Jack Drury. So you're insulating McKinnon with all these other guys that can really play down the middle. Their pace is much better than Dallas, but that doesn't mean they're going to win.
No.
There were some really good efforts from the Dallas Stars. I thought Thomas Harley had a tremendous game on the back end. I thought he was really – somebody's going to have to eat up Heiskanen's minutes. Mm-hmm. Looks like Harley's going to be that guy that's going to eat him up.
You saw what he could do in the Four Nations. I mean,
he wasn't intimidated by that theater at all.
Thomas
Harley, no, he wasn't intimidated at all.
Tyler Seguin, Pierre, I thought that was such a gutsy performance by him, considering everything he's been through this year.
I would agree with you. You know what? I got to tell you, like Tyler, you know how long he and I have been friends for a long time. And there were times when I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're a pro hockey player. Cut the poop out. Let's get real here. But you let young guys go. And I want to tell a story about him. This is where, and it has nothing to do with me. I called him up right after the Boston bombing at the marathon. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine had called me and he said that one of his daughter's friends had been really badly hurt with one of the bombs, and she was in the hospital, and her favorite player is Tyler Seguin. Could you get something from Tyler and have it brought to the hospital? So I said, 100%. So I got in touch with Tyler. I said, hey, look, I hate to bug you. I know we're getting playoff time and this and that. This young lady's been hurt pretty bad. Can you, send a sweater over or autograph a, photo or whatever? Mm-hmm. I got it, Pierre. I'll take care of it. What's her name? What's the hospital? So he went and did it. Like I didn't pay him anything. No, he just went and did it. He never told anybody.
Yeah.
He just went and did it. So I think he realized there's a certain maturity thing you got to attain. And I saw him playing last night. I'm like, I'm so proud of that kid.
He's matured.
Really matured. I was so proud of him playing.
When I covered him, he was a kid. He's a man now. And Pierre, it's interesting you bring that up. And of course, the anniversary of that was this past last week. And I remember too, when they lost to the Blackhawks, he was one of the players that took a while to come out and face us. In fact, he didn't even face the media in a scrum in the dressing room. I think he might have been hurt. I forget. There was some reason why he couldn't come out in the immediate. So anyhow, we're back right in. They say, okay, Tyler wants to meet with you guys. And I was one of the first people down there. A lot of people on deadline. I was just writing a column for the next day.
Yeah.
And I get over there and he starts talking to me and he just breaks down. I mean, he's bawling. Yeah. And I'm like, I know it's a tough lot. He goes, I'm not crying about the game, Murph. We let the city down. After what happened with the marathon, we didn't care about winning a cup. We wanted to win it for them. And I will never forget that about him, because until that point, it was the maturity process. But that to me showed, you know what? Eventually this kid's going to turn it around. He's got it inside him and it's there. And it's ironic that you bring the same topic up in the marathon.
Well, just because I have to tell you,
it hit him hard. It really did.
It did. No, it did. And I remember the phone call like it was yesterday. Obviously, it's a few years ago now. And I just was like, wow, good for you, kid. Good for you. So he made a difference. Like last night, it wasn't just his athleticism last night. He had a little grime to him.
Oh, yeah.
He had a little grit to him last night. Like he was getting after guys a little.
He had that look in his eyes, too. You know what I mean, Pierre?
Yeah, no, it was good. I was really happy to see that. Yeah. What Scotty Bowman used to say this all the time. Hockey players just want to play.
Yep.
What's the one thing you can do to really affect their positivity? Take their game away. Take the ice time away.
Yep.
So when you're a player and you're hurt, you don't really feel like you're the same person.
No.
Because you're not playing.
Yeah.
And, if you're a healthy scratch, you don't feel great about yourself because you're not playing. It's the one way you can really hurt a hockey player.
Yeah.
And so to see him bounce back like this is really impressive.
And it's obviously inspirational for his teammates. Another game, Pierre, great game, but the Jets, credit to them.
Yep.
They hold off the Blues again, and they've got a 2-0 lead going back to St. Louis after a 2-1 win. I think we're both in agreement, though. We think this series is far from over.
Oh, yeah, especially going back to St. Louis. Those fans are electric. As great as the fans were in Winnipeg. And you know what, Jimmy? Hats off to them. That was really impressive what the fans in Winnipeg did. Congratulations to them. I think St. Louis will be their equal. They're Jimmy, so this is good. We used to, Doc Emmerich and Eddie and I used to do these games at around 11 o'clock in the morning, right around St. Patrick's Day in St. Louis.
Oh, I remember this story. Yep.
And Jimmy, I get, how early I go to the rink. So probably I'd be at the rink around 7 o'clock to get a workout in and be ready to work. And I'd be walking to the rink and people would be tailgating. And in downtown St. Louis, there are not a lot of places to tailgate, but you see the people kind of congregating. And Jimmy, there were more fights before 11:45 in that rink than I've seen in the whole season of an NHL. It was amazing how bad. It was always Chicago, St. Louis, like, let's get after it, Just
oh, yeah. I could see that for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I always said too, Pierre, I'm surprised the Bruins still do it. If you're having a game on St. Patrick's Day, don't have it past like 3 or 4 p.m. You're just asking for trouble.
Oh, you're just begging. You're begging for
by
trouble.
Then, for those people that have been going at it all day, that's like midnight and on after 4 o'clock. So
you're just begging for it. When I was in Hartford, we used to play Boston at the Old Garden
on St. Patty's.
The day after U.S. Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
I want to say I think it was an 11 o'clock start. I think maybe it was I remember. It was close. It was probably around 11:30. I'm going to say 11 just to be safe. And I'll tell you what, those were freaking nasty games, man.
Oh, yeah.
They were nasty.
Oh, yeah. People were having fun.
I don't think people really now because Hartford's been gone for a long time from Hartford. Boston was a dirty little secret in the lead. It was a very nasty, nasty.
Yep.
Yeah.
They went after my grandfather in the stands there in Hartford one time. He fought back though. Anyhow, all right, let's go. And then the other game, Pierre, the Kings and the Oilers. I don't know if they just forgot to play defense in this one, but wow, 6-5. The Kings take it. They withstand that comeback by the Oilers. Good on them to respond like that. But I think if I'm on the coaching staff of both sides, I'm focused on the D side of the game heading into game 2, eh? Yeah. That was nothing. I did not expect that from those two teams at all. But that's going to be an interesting series as well. At least the Oilers are saying, hey, we're here. I know everybody's starting to lean towards the Kings coming in, but don't forget us. So that should be an interesting one.
You know what, though? Can I just say one thing? like Edmonton's got to get a defensive conscience.
It's not in their culture. It just isn't, Pierre. You're right.
You're the second person that's told me this, and you're a respected teammate and like a brother to me. And the other guy that told me he's a lifelong NHL person, and I'm like sitting there going, "Wait a second, why not? Why not? Like, what's the excuse? Somebody's got to rationalize it to me. I don't get it. Like when I was in Pittsburgh, we played footloose and fancy free a lot in the regular season. But when the playoffs came,
you knew.
Freaking A, you knew. Like our guys knew right away.
Yeah.
Our guys knew.
And Pierre, let's be real. Like they did grab that mindset at one point during that playoffs and carried it to the final. I mean, that was for the first time in a long time, they were playing grinding playoff hockey and it was working. So you wonder, like, well, then why revert back to the other stuff?
Well, remember we talked about?
Look at the roster.
Yeah. Broberg's in St. Louis. Cece's in Dallas. Ekholm is hurt. 3 of their top
Holloway's
6
gone.
See you later. Who?
Yep.
Holloway up front is gone.
Yep.
So
he was emerging. Yeah.
That's Jimmy Montgomery. He's emerged a lot.
He's emerged a lot, is damn right. So interesting stuff there. And then quickly before we get to our sponsors and the Q&A and my pick of the night, we just tease up the games here tonight, Pierre. We've got 2
6
games.
o'clock start, Jersey, Carolina. 6
That's
o'clock.
right. Good note. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up for all our listeners and viewers out there. Don't forget that is a 6 o'clock start in Carolina. Devils and Hurricanes. Devils are even more banged up now, Pierre. They're in rough shape. I mean, I hate to say it, but you said it. You said if they don't split in this series down in games 1 and 2, you said they might get swept.
We could.
And now it really looks that way.
Well, first of all, no, and I don't want to know about Brendan Dillon, but if one of Brendan Dillon's friends or families watching this or listening, like tell them Jimmy and I are thinking of him. Like that was not pretty the other day. And I don't want to know what happened to him, whether it was an upper body, lower body, internal organ thing. I don't want to know because that looks scary.
And he's a key part of that.
And I'll tell you one thing, Jimmy, he's an undrafted kid. He was a captain of the Seattle Thunderbirds in the Western Hockey League. That kid is a tough son of a gun, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And he is an amazing teammate, Jimmy.
I know.
Amazing teammate. I felt so bad watching that. And then Luke Hughes.
Yeah.
And he had surgery on his shoulder this offseason. And again, you could see it was his left shoulder. Like,
you know what? If I'm the Devils and I'm their fans right now, I mean, you put your arm, like, what else? I mean, all right, what else? What else can go on?
It's no moss. And you know, Carolina, like they're not a kid team.
Oh no,
they're a man team. They're an old
team right now. They smell blood in the water.
It's like sharks circling in the ocean. Yep. They're going right at them. They are going right at them.
They're up against it tough with the Devils there, and then the Senators, of course, are down 1-0 to the Leafs again in Toronto for Game 2. And as we discussed earlier with Erik Erlendsson, the Lightning hosting the Panthers. And then 11 p.m. start, the Golden Knights hosting the Wild in Game 2. That's an interesting game, Pierre, because, I don't know how many people stayed up for the last one for Game 1, but I thought the Wild, as the game went on, I'm okay. Like, I thought there were some good things about their game there. And I think if they can build on it, I don't think this game tonight is, a lock, as I see a lot of people online saying for the Golden Knights. I think this game's going to be a lot tougher. I'll get to it in my pick of the night, but I think this is going to be a lot tougher than people think for the Knights.
Well, first of all, Minnesota was right in that game. That's a 3-1 game, but it's an empty net goal at the end with about a quarter of a second left on the clock.
Yeah.
So that was tighter than they thought. Bouillam's only going to get better on the back end. Faber's going to be better in Game 2. He was okay in Game 1. He'll be better in Game 2. Kaprizov's the real deal. You know what? If they get a split, Minnesota could pull an upset. I'm not saying they're gonna, but I'm just saying if they win tonight, they could make this a really long, hard series for Vegas, and that's not what Vegas needed.
No, they don't need that at all, especially with the potential of who they could play in the next round.
That's what I'm saying. That's not what they need because the next round they play LA, I think, right?
Yep.
LA, if LA were Edmonton, don't get mad. If LA were to beat them, I'm just going based on first night.
Exactly.
So, or they play Edmonton.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Pick your poison there. So, all right, let's get to our sponsors, and then we'll get to my pick of the night and the Q&A for all you people there. Some great questions. I've been looking at them as they build up here. Let's talk about TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces, and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful gambling sponsors, Betway, where you can still go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200, even if your first bet loses. Scan that QR code right in front of you if you're watching, or go to the details section on the website and create your new account there. It is only available, this offer, for new customers. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus and always bet responsibly. Let's go to my picks of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right. I'm going to start with that aforementioned Jersey Carolina game 2, the early start there at 6. I'm actually looking at the first game and the last game of the night tonight. So in that first game, I like the team total over 3.5 for the Carolina Hurricanes. That defense is just too depleted right now, I think, for New Jersey. I see their offense picking it up. So give me over 3.5. You go over to Betway right now. You can get that at -140 value. And then to the last game of the night, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Wild, like we were just talking about. And my pick is an overtime in this game, just to keep everybody up even later on the East Coast. It's going OT, but maybe at least you can bet on it and win some money, and you won't feel as bad when you're exhausted at work tomorrow morning. So take the draw on this one at +340 value. That's some great value. I don't know who will win, but I feel it's going overtime. So there you go. Pierre, before we go to the Q&A, one big news today. Happened right before we came on here. Lou Lamoriello is out with the New York Islanders. They will not renew his contract. Your instant reaction to that, Pierre McGuire?
What a great career. What a great career. And what people don't know about Coach Lamoriello, and Jimmy knows, I call him that out of respect, how much he did for people away from the rink, and he never told anybody.
No.
It's pretty amazing, whether it was somebody that was down on their luck, or somebody that needed medical care, or somebody that needed helped with college tuition or whatever. Trust me, the coach will be mad at me for saying this stuff, but I'm just telling you, he is a special guy. Now, that doesn't equate to being an elite manager of a team right now. And you are what, like Bill Parcells said, you are what your record is. The team's record hasn't been good enough. And he would be the first person to tell you that.
Yeah.
And so, it's an amazing career, distinguished, proud, amazing career. And congratulations to the coach. Phenomenal career.
Should they be looking right now, Pierre, in terms of who they might bring in? Should it be a guy that is more on the older side and established? Maybe he's won some cups, or should they be looking more for young or in between hybrid? What's the direction you think this franchise needs to go in right now?
The best person that's been working. Somebody that's been working, and then that person surrounds himself with, and it's probably going to be a younger person, I would imagine, and then surround yourself with veteran people. Don't give them huge fancy titles, advisor, helper, somebody that can stay in their lane and help and insulate you, and give that new person who's coming in an opportunity to grow into the job without making mistakes. Because when Craig Patrick got the job in Pittsburgh, the first 2 hires he made were Bob Johnson to run the hockey operations on the ice, and Scotty Bowman to run the whole player development thing and scouting. And why did he do that? Because he knew he needed help.
Yeah.
Because it didn't work great with him when he was with the Rangers. So he knew he needed to fix it. And so if I were guiding them, I would tell them with respect, hire a young guy. I think it'd be a good thing.
Build the insulation around
Make sure there's insulation around him so that he's not going to run wild, and he's going to divorce himself from the emotions that a lot. And I was one of them. Young guys get emotional and they get a little mad, and just have the older guys there to just, okay, let's calm down.
Yep.
Maybe we didn't do this right.
Everything.
We'll fix it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of teams that don't do that, and they should be doing that.
I agree.
They should
100% agree. All right, let's get to that Q&A. What do we got? A to Z me. Wow, changing to the guard in New York, just as we were saying. What chance do you guys give Watt to stick around with a new GM? It's going to be that new GM's call. I'm not sure. I couldn't give you a definite answer right now on that one.
I don't know, and I'm not gonna try.
I'm not
gonna speculate and pretend that I'm an insider in this one.
Yeah,
I'm not. So I'm not even gonna try to pretend. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. But usually, when a new person comes in, and I've been a victim of this on a couple of occasions, they change. That's just how, and you can't take it personally. Just move on.
Yep.
That's it. That's how it works.
All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, would Holland be a good fit for the Islanders?
Good.
Yes.
Kenny would be an outstanding fit there. There are a couple other jobs. We had Kenny on our show last week. I thought he was tremendous. I think Jimmy, I think Kenny will be somewhere. I don't know if it'll be with the Islanders, but I think he'll be somewhere.
I'm with you on that one, Pierre. All right, next question. Yosef Cohen, what caused Elias Lindholm's drop-off in production and on-ice impact? He was a great player on the Flames and should still be in the prime of his career. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Elias, but look at the guys he had around him there in his best year, and it's been all downhill since. I think he's still a great 2C if he's at his best, but I think he was just he wasn't typecasted right with the Boston Bruins. He's not the number one center. He's not a number one center on a contender. That's it.
When he played in Calgary, he was on the best line in the league. They had the most points. He played with Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. I went out to scout Calgary a lot because there were a couple I was working in Ottawa then. There were a couple guys we were really interested in trying to get to change a little bit of the dynamic of our team. And I just marveled. And I talked to our people about how great Lindholm, Tkachuk, and Gaudreau was. But the one thing I did say, Lindholm's fortunate to be playing with these other two guys. He's very fortunate. And then he got traded to Vancouver, and it didn't work very well in Vancouver, and they didn't re-sign him. And then he went to Boston, and they did sign him. And it's just miscast. He's not a number one center. He's a good. To hit the kid's credit, he's a good player.
Yep.
He's not a number one. He's not replacing Krejci, and he's not replacing Bergeron. He's not. He's not as good as those guys.
No. All right. Next question. Use _031017. Does Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders parting ways signal a rebuild retool on Long Island?
I don't think it's going to be as draconian as people think. Now, the one thing I'll say where there's going to be a little bit of rebuilding, they have the worst minor league team in the American Hockey League in Bridgeport. So that needs to get fixed. They need to have better prospects in there, and guys are going to evolve and play. They got Cole Eiserman coming, which is great. They've got other college players that are evolving that are going to be good players in pro hockey, but they need time. But I don't think it's going to be a major rebuild. I think there's going to be some overhauling. You know, losing Matt Martin and losing Cal Clutterbuck in back-to-back years, that takes away a lot of your juice internally. Yep. But when you have Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock and Noah Dobson, and you got ammunition there. You know, Romanov, you got some ammunition there. So it's not like it's a complete rebuild. They need to get Barzal back and healthy. Barzal matters a lot.
You bring up Dobson there, Pierre, and I think one of the things that you and I were a little baffled at was the rumors surrounding him heading into the trade deadline.
Well, they were trying to.
And it's starting up again within the last few hours because of what just happened with Lamoriello. Look, if I'm the Islanders, I don't move him at all. He's a part of my solution. He's not like – sorry, I don't know where this came from.
It's a money thing, Jimmy. It's all about money. It's all about money. You know, one of the great friends that we have on the show, I spoke to earlier. I don't know if he wants me to. Well, should I? I don't know if I should say.
No, it's up to you. It's up to you.
I'll say his name, Chris Botta. Okay, he's a really good. He's a smart guy. He's a really good hockey guy,
and he's tied in there.
He's tied in big, and I just think it's down to money with him, Noah Dobson, and. They see what some of these other guys are getting, and I don't think they want to spend that much on him. Now, maybe it changes because Coach Lamoriello is gone. Mm-hmm. So maybe it changes. I don't know.
We'll see. But I think he's a key part of that team going forward. All right, next question. Randy Workman, I am worried about losing Vladar, which means Wolf will get a heavy load. Can we overwork Wolf putting him in too many starts? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not big, Randy. It's a great question. Totally agree. Totally agree, Randy.
That's an underrated story, I bet. Good of you to catch it right now.
Yep, agree with Randy there.
Next question. Vincent Noel. Hey, gentlemen, if you made me coach of the Habs, I play 7 D-men and sit line A. Suzuki gets double shifted between Newhook and Demidov in the O zone and Evans in the D zone. I want effort. Am I crazy?
No, you're onto something. I've been saying it for a while. So I would dress Jack Eye. I would take one of the forwards out. Probably not line A, only because of the power play. You're going to have to score in the power play, and he can do that. It would be someone else. It would be a winger. I don't know which one it would be. It might be Armia, depending on what his health is. I don't know. But I'd go 11-7 if I were Montreal for game 2.
Great call there, Vincent.
I would go like Jimmy. Jack Eye, and look, Jimmy knows better than anybody. I'm not a goon guy. Like, I don't.
Nope.
That's not my
You're
thing.
a deterrent.
Yeah, but you got to have somebody there that when the other team comes out and wants to be silly,
Which they did.
they did, you got to have somebody that can get silly on the other side too.
Yep. All right, next question. Use_031017. Would a healthy Kirby Dach help the Canadians right now and last night? Yeah, I mean, of course it would help. I don't know if that's pinpointing what they were missing last night.
Well, I think what he's talking about, the second line center.
Yeah.
Newhook's not a second center. Newhook's going to be a third line left winger. When the Canes are really good, he's going to be a third line left winger.
Yeah.
Probably going to be playing with Owen Beck.
Yeah.
And then you watch those guys go to work. Like,
Everyone falls into place.
yeah, it's all about slotting. But it's really apparent. They go Strome, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Lars Eller, and then Nick Dowd. Okay. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what they do. Washington. Bing, 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 bing. Suzuki's playing by himself, man.
Yeah.
They're just every time, boom. Watch what happens by game 4.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tough kid. They're going to annihilate him physically because there's no threat in the 2-hole. There's nothing there.
I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Dan, you guys think that Pascal Vincent will be hired as coach in the NHL?
Well, he already has been one in Columbus, and I do think he's going to get another opportunity. I do.
I agree. I don't think it'll be next year, though. I think he stays.
No. I don't think so. Unless he wants to go as an assistant somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
I think he's pretty happy where he is right now.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, how can Boston be an attraction to free agents when Jacobs makes that's Charlie Jacobs, by the way, makes comments on why it was Montgomery's and Marchand's fault? Not trying to start drawing by asking this. You're not, Ethan. We addressed this last week. Yeah, I don't like the scapegoating. That's been a common thread there, especially when it comes to the coach. I think this is going to be a very interesting offseason there, but unfortunately for Bruins fans, unless there's changes above, I don't know. Even a change with philosophy. I'm not saying anyone should lose their job either, Pierre, but I think they should do what you were suggesting about the Islanders. More people around, more brain trust, new voices.
Get them different. They need a little shake up voice-wise. They do.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody losing their job.
Yeah.
They just need to have some different thinking. That's all. It's become pretty incestuous there for a long time now. So here's the one thing I would say, and this is something that you got to take into account when you're going out and getting free agents. Are the Bruins an original 6 team?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do the Bruins play in a world-class city? Yes. What's the level of the educational system in Boston?
Amazing.
Yeah. What's the medical situation in Boston? Elite.
Mm-hmm.
What's the living situation in Boston? Elite.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things players
Players
aren't going out to dinner with owners.
Yeah.
Trust me. You lucky if they even know what the players look like.
Yeah.
Players want to know, is my family going to get educated? Is my family going to live in a safe neighborhood? Is my family going to get recognized in a positive way when we go out on the town? Yeah, because hockey's a big thing in Boston. And is there going to be good health care where I'm going?
Yep.
Especially if I have a young family. The answer is yes, yes, yes. Like it's tick everywhere. Boston's a tick everywhere.
And don't forget, there's amazing eating establishments and drinking establishments.
Everything.
Especially that one on Portland Street called West End Johnny's.
West End Johnny's.
That's right. And by the way, Fenway Johnny's is hopping now with the Red Sox back. I saw some pictures.
I can't even imagine what yesterday. Well, no, Monday.
Yeah, he posted some
Monday.
stuff.
Did Johnny? I'm gonna have to call him when we're done the show.
On Instagram. I'll send you the pictures.
Hey.
It was hopping.
Johnny, come on.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you think Chris McFarland will be a finalist for GM of the year? What an addition with Blackwood. Do you think they'd be where they are without him? yes on finalists, and totally agree with you on Blackwood. I think he definitely should be a finalist.
And don't forget what happened with Nate just going there. Don't forget what happened with Brock Nelson going there. Don't forget what happened with Charlie Coyle going there. Drury going there. Ryan Lindgren going there. Scott Wedgwood going there. Like, I can keep going. Joe Sakic and McFarland did a really good job. They did a really good job. So did all the scouts there. By the way, a lot of Colorado guys watch this. The scouts, you guys did a magnificent job.
They did for sure. All right, next question. Ethan Russell. I watched the Wild versus the Knights Sunday night and was a zombie at work the next day, but it was worth it. How underrated is Matt Boldy? Every shift he is creating a scoring chance. Great observation, Ethan. Big fan of Boldy.
Huge. You know who never got credit for him? Paul Fenton. He was a general manager in Minnesota when they drafted him.
That's right.
He only lasted a year there. Paulie Fenton did and Paulie, I know he did a really good job. Just telling you, like, there were some players left when Paulie left there that were good players.
Nope. Another great Weston Mass hockey man with the Wild there. All right, next question.
You Springfield guy. Just let it go.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, we saw Arbor and Hudson work in the regular season. To me, Hudson had more room out there with Arbor. Should they go back to that? They just seem to have good chemistry.
No, Ron, come on.
No.
Come on, Ron.
All due respect, Ron, no.
Ron, you're like one of the better guys on this forum. No, the regular season and the postseason are two different things. No.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Here's the one thing I want to say, just so Ron understands why I'm so against it. Let's just say Lane plays 24 to 26 minutes in a playoff game. You want Arbor Jackeye playing that many minutes?
Exactly.
No.
He can't do that. All right, next question. Big Bill, if the Habs don't put Jackeye in the lineup during these playoffs, do you think his days are over with the Habs when Reinbacher, Engstrom, Mailou, and the wings? No. No, because Arbor plays on the left side, and no. The answer is no. Those two of those guys are all three of them actually play on the right side. Yeah. Engstrom can play both. So no, I don't see that being a problem at all. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, who should be the next head coach for Seattle?
Rick Tocchet, if he's available.
Good call. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, could you see Barzal become available if they decide to rebuild?
No, because he's part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yep. Next question. Ethan Russell, how did you think the Blues' decision of running 11 forwards and 7D went?
Good. Yeah. Tight game right to the end.
I thought it was a great game, both sides.
Yeah,
for sure.
Good.
All right, next question. Is that it?
You're done.
Wow, we moded there at the end, Pierre.
We had to, because I got to make a call in 3 minutes.
And then you got to go on with Mitch Melnick. So.
I know, it's great. And I'm not – it's been crazy. There's so much going on.
You had a heck of a day.
Today's been a nutty day. I got a lady flying in from Barcelona, Spain, that I got to pick up.
Yep. Oh, you are?
My wife. That's my wife.
I think everyone knew, but just to clarify.
Oh, so I got a lot going on here. Hockey-wise. Got a lot of games to watch, too. Holy mackerel. I don't know how we're going to do it. We'll find a way.
All right. Well, great show. Thanks to Erik Erlendsson for joining us here.
Erik was excellent. He was excellent.
He's always excellent. It was good to see him again. I've known him for almost my whole career in hockey writing. Thanks to him for joining us. Thanks to you for all your wonderful questions, and to our listeners and viewers. We appreciate it. And Shane up in Montreal. Until tomorrow, this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.